But I want to start off right away with my first guest. It is Congressman Chris Stewart from Utah's 2nd Congressional District. We have a lot to talk to Congressman about, and hopefully we'll get a little time to talk about his writing of the book along with Elizabeth Smart about her story. It's quite a book, getting rave reviews around the country today. But before we do that, I want to get Congressman Stewart on the phone. And Congressman Stewart, thank you, and welcome back to the show.
Good afternoon, Rod. It's always a pleasure. You know that.
Congressman, I want to ask you, first of all, this news conference that the president held today, I mean, I think it is an embarrassment to this country for the president of the United States to throw fire on this whole debt thing. The sky is falling. The sky is falling. Shouldn't he be calming the markets instead of, stirring them up even more?
Well, you would think so, wouldn't you? I mean, he is the president of the United States, and not just Americans, but people from all over the world look to him for stability. They look for them to be a calming influence, a calming leader, but this president seems to have an eye towards politicizing just nearly everything.
I mean, he's using words like catastrophic, atomic bombs. I mean, what is he trying to do here?
Well, he's trying to stir up fear. He's trying to make things appear to be as worse as they possibly can, and he's doing the same thing that he did with sequestration. And you started out talking about our national parks. The Republicans in the House passed legislation last week asking the president and Senator Reid to open up our national parks. It provided funding to open up our national parks, and that was just one of many pieces of legislation that we passed that would, bring our government back up online. The Food and Drug Administration, cancer research, veterans benefits, National Guard and Army Reserve, federal employees. I mean, there's a long, long list of things that we have passed out of the House, sent to the Senate, and said, just fund these programs. And yet there they sit, and yet there the president stands at another news conference talking about impending doom, and yet he still refuses to come, sit down, and talk with us.
As the last time I checked, Congressman, the U.S. economy is still the strongest in the world. It's the biggest economy in the world. What would be the problem if we get to this default issue, so to speak, and we simply prioritize, we'll pay these bills, we'll pay these bills, and these bills? Isn't that the correct, mature way to approach this?
Well, I think the first thing we want to do is to avoid that situation, which is, once again, why we're begging the president, come sit down and talk to us. I mean, it's just absolutely bonkers that this president says, I don't ever have to talk to my political opponents. Heavens, what would we do if Benjamin Netanyahu said in Israel, I'm never going to talk to the Palestinians? Or if the Palestinians said, I'm never going to talk with the leaders from the state of Israel? Would we accept that? Of course we wouldn't. We would say you have to be responsible adults. There are conflicts, there are differences of opinion, but you only solve those if you sit down and discuss them. And that's all we're asking the president to do. Please, come down, sit down with the speaker, sit down with representatives from the Republican Party. Republicans and Democrats have been in opposition in different policies for generations. This isn't the first time that's happened, but it's the first time we've had a president who just absolutely refuses to talk with the opposition party, and he just outright dismisses not just us as Congresspeople, but he dismisses the millions and the tens of millions of people that we represent.
You've heard the stories about the tragic stories about people trying to log on to the new health and insurance exchange site. Kathleen Sebelius with Jon Stewart last night couldn't give him a straight answer as to what's going on. I mean, can't the president get a feel that outside the Beltway, America is really concerned about this?
Well, and as they should be. Heavens, I'm sure you were aware of the legend of Chad on Twitter, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Who was the only individual in the entire nation that they said had actually signed up for health care until they found out that, well, maybe he didn't. But gosh, I mean, that's emblematic of what the exchanges and the health care or Obamacare has been through in the last week. And it's too bad that we can't keep the focus on trying to fix that bill instead of trying to get the president to come talk to us.
I want to go back to the issue of the national parks here in the state. I mean, they are having a direct impact on the economy down in southern Utah. Is there a way where the government of the state of Utah could tell the federal government, hey, if you can't fund it, let us step in and keep them open with volunteer. We'll provide money to back that up, at least for now. Is there room there, a resolution or a law there that would allow us to even do that, Congressman?
I don't know if the answer to that question. I would hope there is, but the reality is there's probably not. And look, you've had other examples where people have offered, for example, to keep the World War II memorial open here in Washington, and the administration has said no. They've offered to keep open other parks or facilities around the country, and the administration has said no. Again, they want to make this as painful as they can for as many people as they can. But you got to come back to your original argument there, Rod, about isn't this a great example of why if we had more state control over some of our own state lands, I mean, those Zion's Park wouldn't be closed right now if the state had more influence on the federal government and how they control our lands.
Boy, it's an amazing story. I want to talk more with you, Congressman, but I know you're short on time, and we're running up against a hit time as well, about the book with Elizabeth Smart. The reviews I'm reading around a couple of the national papers today are glowing reviews. They said it is quite a story. Congratulations to you and Elizabeth for being able to put that story together, because from what I've read so far, some of the excerpts from that, boy, what a powerful story she has to tell.
Well, she is one of the most impressive persons that I've ever met, and I'm so honored that I had, a couple of years there to work with her to tell that story. And as I explained to you, Rod, it's a little uncomfortable for me to talk about that because I want people to know I'm their full-time congressman, but we worked on this for years together, and it was just so compelling of an experience for me to work with her and to be able to tell this story. And I tell you, it's a story of faith, and it's a story of incredible hope. And you look at her and what she went through, and you look at her outlook on life, and you just can't help but be inspired by it.
What an impressive story, and hopefully down the road we'll have more time to talk about it. Congressman, thank you.
Hey, always, Rod. Thank you, and I'd love to come back.
All right. Utah 2nd District Congressman Chris Stewart talking about the shutdown and the park situation. I'll have more thoughts on that coming up next on the Rod Arquette Show. A busy day. Talk Radio 105.7 FM, 570 AM.